Democrats and Republicans in Congress are demanding more answers from the White House about the attack that killed 4 Americans in Libya, including the U.S. ambassador.
The Obama administration now admits that terrorists were behind the attack after first blaming it on a protest about a video criticizing Islam. Heather Sells has that story.
From the beginning, the administration pushed the idea that it was spontaneous and not the work of terrorists.
These protests were in reaction to a video that had spread to the region. We have no information to suggest that it was a pre-planned attack.
What we do know is that the natural protests that arose because of the outrage over the video were used as an excuse by extremists to see if they can also directly harm U.S. interests.
Republicans have speculated that the White House downplayed the possibility of terrorism because it's an election year, and it wants voters to believe al-Qaeda is mostly defeated. Now the newspaper The Hill says Democrats like Senator John Kerry are pushing for answers too. That comes as ABC News reports that intelligence officials in Libya immediately suspected that the attack was not tied to the movie. That's because the attackers knew where to get Ambassador Stevens after he fled to a so-called safe house nearby. Also, the attackers used insurgent mortars to hit the building, suggesting they knew what they were doing. The White House says its understanding of events has changed as intelligence has been confirmed. And top administration officials have started to call it a terrorist attack.
As we determined the details of what took place there and how that attack took place, that it became clear that there were terrorists who had planned that attack.
Despite the increasing pressure to find out what really happened, several media outlets are now reporting that the FBI still has not yet even reached Benghazi to investigate. Heather Sells, CBN News.
It does seem hard to believe. On the anniversary of 9/11, you have simultaneous attacks. A safe house is uncovered, and you've got rocket-propelled grenades and mortars being brought to some kind of protest. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Coming out since, there's been allegations that a former inmate at Gitmo was behind the attack in Libya. And apparently a group affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood was on television asking people to turn out on 9/11 at the U.S. Embassy to protest that film. So even that one seems to now be organized. And as more information comes out, we've got to start asking the question, why would the White House say it was spontaneous when there was all kinds of information showing it was planned? Wendy Griffith has more on a warning about another deadly threat in the Middle East, this time a nuclear Iran. Wendy?
Thanks, Gordon. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the threat of retaliation won't restrain a nuclear Iran. Netanyahu told the United Nations that Iran's leaders believe a devastating holy war would speed up the return of a Muslim holy man who would help establish Islam throughout the earth. Netanyahu warned that a nuclear Iran would be a clear threat to peace and says time is running out to stop Iran from building nuclear weapons. A New York appeals court will decide whether a federal law protecting traditional marriage is constitutional. The law is called the Defense of Marriage Act and was passed back in 1996. It defines marriage as between one man and one woman. A panel of 3 federal judges heard arguments Thursday for and against the law. Critics argue it intrudes upon states' rights to regulate domestic policy. Last year, President Obama and Attorney General Eric Holder made headlines when they told the Department of Justice not to defend the law anymore. A ruling is not expected for months. The case is expected to go to the Supreme Court, and their ruling could decide the fate of same-sex marriage in America. Well, Christians from across the nation will gather at Philadelphia's Independence Mall this weekend to pray for America. America for Jesus 2012 begins tonight. CBN's Pat Robertson is among the scheduled speakers. Bishop Ann Jimenez of Rock Church right here in Virginia Beach helped organize the 2-day event. She says ministers will preach on the 7 sins destroying the country: pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, anger, and sloth. Organizers say they'll also be praying for the upcoming presidential election and for God to touch America and heal our land. And we'll have a complete report on this important rally on Monday's 700 Club. I'll be heading up there to Philadelphia today, Gordon.
All right, well, if you're around Philadelphia, I hope you turn out for that. America for Jesus, back in 1980, organized by John Jimenez, Ann Jimenez's husband, was a turning point, I believe, in our nation. That was after 4 years of what even the president was referring to as the malaise. We had hostages in Iran. There was all kinds of trouble around the world. Inflation was runaway. Our economy was stagnant. We were facing all kinds of trouble. And John said, we need to pray. We need to ask God. And it turned it around. So we can turn around again. So CBN is calling for 51 days of prayer, and prayer specifically for America. And our verse is one I hope you've memorized. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Let me underline, it's if my people who are called by my name. This is a prayer call for Christians. And if we turn and we pray, God can heal our land.